Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. You'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentary.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this, because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cell.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast. Subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday, everyone. What's going on? Good Mic Work Commentaries back at you for your Winged Eagle podcast for January 21st, 2023. Hope you guys are having a great week so far. I know many of us are not having that great of a week due to the heartbreaking tragedy that the wrestling world suffered this past week with the loss of Jay Briscoe, which will be a big focal point of the podcast today because this is the first video I've done on my channel since last Sunday's Royal Rumble 1996 watch-along. I was absent for all the weekdays, primarily because I was very busy at work, and if you can tell, I also started coming down with a little bit of a head cold, and I felt like shit all week. I'm starting to come out on the other side of that. Still got a little nasally, sinusy thing going on in my head, so if I don't sound completely myself, I apologize up front for that, but I'm definitely good to go for today to get this podcast done because we have a lot to talk about. I mean a lot to talk about about. In addition to all of the wonderful comments and things we're going to say and share about Jay Briscoe, we got a lot of other wrestling news to get into as well, along with a lot of Vince McMahon news. Vince McMahon has reached a settlement with Rita Chatterton, and he is also, of course, back in WWE, spearheading their plans to pursue strategic alternatives and a sale. Nick Khan was a guest on Bill Simmons' podcast this week, or did an interview with Bill Simmons that was very gross, and we're going to read some comments and highlights from that. We're also going to talk about The Rock potentially not being at WrestleMania to face Roman Reigns. He's mentioning that he's not going to be in shape, even though they've been dropping 2 years of hints that he's going to be there. We'll talk about whether or not that's BS or not. Also, CM Punk is always in the news, and we'll talk about the latest with him and AEW. We've got a big preview for this Monday's Raw 30. Lots of legends planned for this show and a couple of big matches on tap. We'll talk about this past week's Dynamite, and we'll talk about last night's SmackDown, which did see the return of the Firefly Funhouse. So all that and more here in today's episode. And like I said, I apologize for not being up here all this week at all. My plan was to get some mic drops and some YouTube shorts and some sort of content up on the channel, since I wasn't going to be here for the Dynamite watch along and all of that. But unfortunately, my schedule just did not allow me to do much other YouTube stuff other than plan for our insane week coming up. So there are all sorts of links currently up on my channel. I want you guys to check it out as soon as you have time. Right there in the top playlist, the latest content tab or playlist has all 5 of our links, including this one. So 4 more, including this one for this week. We're going to start with tomorrow, Royal Rumble 1999 watch along. We're going to watch that tomorrow night at normal time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. Then on Monday, I'm going to be here to live react to Raw 30. I thought it would be fun. Lots of legends, including Hulk Hogan on tap, Becky Bailey in a cage with Lita is the ref, and we also have Austin Theory defending against Bobby Lashley, which I will assume Brock Lesnar is going to interfere in that and cost Lashley the title, setting up their match probably at the Royal Rumble, I guess, between those two. That's my thought on that anyway. Also, we have a big Royal Rumble predictions and live Q&A. I've been talking about the Q&A lately. We're going to do that this coming Thursday, the 26th, right ahead of the Royal Rumble. We'll come up that night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, kind of later that night, just to predict the entire Royal Rumble card. And then we will answer questions that you guys have been sending me at my email. If you are not a channel member and you want to participate in the Q&A, send your questions over to goodmikework@gmail.com, or tune in the night of the show and you can just ask live there in the chat. All of the channel members, you have your own separate post right now up in the community tab on YouTube just for you guys. So you can ask your questions right in there. That way I have all of the channel members' questions located in one place, and I can make sure that I give you guys top priority when it comes to answering those questions. So we're going to be doing that on Thursday, the 26th. And then 1 week from today, Royal Rumble 2023 pay-per-view, I'm going to be here live to react to the whole damn thing. And we're also going to stick around for a post-show review, maybe more of a recap, since I'm going to be not going to be making notes as I'm sitting here hanging with you guys and drinking beer and chilling. But we're still going to stick around after the show to do a review and recap of the show, and then I might elaborate more in a review in upcoming days. But that is the plan for next week. Royal Rumbles are always really fun to react to because you have a new surprise every 60 seconds, and it's very cool. So we're going to be doing, or every 2 minutes, whatever it is these days. So we're going to be doing that all this week. So that's a lot of videos coming, a lot on the channel this week, and most of them are already up there now. I'm also going to be adding potentially a Wednesday night Dynamite live reaction if I'm home. I'm not sure if I'm going to be here or not, but if I am, we'll be up here to react to Dynamite as well, which will put me on camera in front of your faces a whole heck of a lot this week. So make sure you stay tuned and make sure you subscribe. If you would like to become a member, you can do that. Click in the join button below, or there is also a link in the description. Speaking of links in the description, I want you guys to check out Bald Guy Wrestling, little side hustle channel I just started. Link is in the description to that. As you guys know, I was at Dynamite at the LA Forum a couple weeks ago, and I took a lot of videos and photos, and we did a review on the show, and I also have just booked my entire WrestleMania trip for this April as well. I attended Double or Nothing last year. I was at SummerSlam a couple of years ago, a Monday Night Raw, and I realized Survivor Series 2018 years back, and I realized the Jericho Cruise, and I realized that I have a lot of just random footage, just of spots and matches or people I met or whatever, just piles and piles and folders of footage that I can just make little 1-minute clips out of and just throw them up on YouTube. I don't want to do that on the main channel. Thought that would be good for a side hustle. I'm not going to monetize it or anything. Just throw it up there just for extra stuff to like dump some of this footage and content that I have that I think is really cool. A lot of it is quite nice. And I've got some really cool things on camera that I thought would be cool to put up on YouTube. So if you want to click that link, take you over to the new channel, Bald Guy Wrestling. That's what I titled it. And I'm just going to be posting clips of various videos I've taken from shows I've attended or wrestling trips I've made, and even might be using it for other types of reactions, some edited reactions that I've been working on the side, because I've been doing live reactions of pay-per-views, of classic pay-per-views for a long time now on my channel, and I've got hours and hours of footage in there that I could crop out and maybe even react to individual matches and be able to edit them in a way. Have you ever seen those channels that do like movie, first time watching so-and-so movie, and the way they kind of edit it to where it's a little bit safe for YouTube? I was thinking about playing around with some of that stuff for wrestling matches and doing it over there. That way, if I run into issues, it's only going to affect that channel and not this one. Little things I've been tossing around as a little side hustle and another way you guys can find my content. So that's up now. I'm going to be posting videos there a little bit at a time, and once I have more time available, I will start expanding that content over on Bald Guy Wrestling, and we'll see if we can make anything of this channel. So it's just going to be a little side hobby of mine to do in my spare time. That's all. Link is in the description. If you could check it out, I would appreciate it. Let's see, what else do I have to tell you guys about? Let's do some quick shout outs before we get into the chat here as well. And before we get into the news, let me just do a quick shout out on all the current channel members. I want to thank Ian Dunn, Motown Slim, Ken Webb, and Titanium Titan. Ken, Motown, and Titanium are all new. You guys have just came in the last day or two, or a couple of days. Mango Salso, Josiah Blevins, Kevin, Red Raven Rucker, Ramon Coffee, MJ Parker, Ruben Litton, Foxstar Killer, Chaz Medeiros, The Juliet 316, Brandon Collier, Alan Carter, Ian Joe Dunn, Randall Yates, Deshaun Robinson, Zach Palgett, Dre, Sean 2018, Jordan, Financial Truth Academy, Devlin Husband, Michael Tong, Ian, Longboard, Sam, Jeff, Mikey, Elizabeth, Luke, Tar, Zelius Ward, William, Bo Clav Lovic, Spider, Al Ramos, Zach, Chris Miner, Mike Witt, Jimmy Anderson, C. Mac, Brett, Mab, Joshua Aparicio, How Wheezy, Spaz Phoenix, good to see you, Ronnie, Ronald, Nicole Lensing, Marcus the Entertainer, Nikita Abalakin, Divine Ricks, Todd G, Zane G, Chris Barrera, Michael Cuomo, John J.E. Dennett, S. Tatanani, Nick Musser, K-Dogs Kennel, Max Pokebra, Spectre, Reese Jones, Victor Cologne, Isaac George Morris, Population 420, and JJ Leg. Thank you all very, very much for being current channel members and supporters. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Also, I want to go here to the chat and say hello to everybody and let you guys know what we're going to be doing for this episode. Now, like I said, we have a lot to get into, but one of the big things we're going to talk about on this channel or on the show today is, of course, the unfortunate and tragic death of Jay Briscoe. Now, Jay passed away this past Tuesday, and I wasn't able to come up and give any thoughts on it. I figured I would just save everything for today because I don't want to rush anything up to YouTube or speak without knowing any information or just try to be the first up here. I'd rather just kind of collect myself. We all have a lot to process here. This has shocked and heartbroken the entire wrestling community, and I just kind of needed to take a deep breath and process all of this before I could even attempt to come up here and make any comments on it. So one thing that we're going to do today for this episode is 100% of all super chats that come in today, we are going to donate to the Pugh family. I'm also going to make add a personal donation to all of those super chats as well. We're going to do that this weekend. Tomorrow, I will make that donation to them from the Good Mike Work family, just so it's known it's from all of us, and we're trying to do what we can to help the family out because those two little girls are in for a long road of recovery. And of course, they have also just lost their father, and anything we can do to help, we definitely want to. You can also donate directly. I put the link to their fund page or their fundraising page right in the description below. So if you don't want to do a super chat, you can just go right over there and donate directly from yourself. They have already surpassed the goal that they wanted. There's been some extremely generous donations coming in from the wrestling world. Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho and a few others who've donated in up of $10,000 or more. Really great to see kind of the community come together and rally around this guy. The outpouring of love and support and heartbreak has been really overwhelming this week. We've experienced so many wrestling deaths throughout the years. As wrestling fans, we are, I don't want to say used to it, and I don't want to say immune to it, because we're not, but we're definitely used to horrific tragedies and just unbelievable kick in the balls. And it never seems to end, one after another. And no matter how many times something horrible happens, you never seem to be prepared for the next horrible thing that happens. And when we learned of the death of Jay Briscoe, it was just heartbreaking. I mean, this guy is a current Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion, had match of the year just a couple of weeks ago in that dog collar match with FTR. He has had a long 2-decade run in Ring of Honor. He is a legend there. And he has spent so much time in tag teams and singles and really developed as a wrestler and a character. And he is one of the most hilarious and equally terrifying guys that I've ever seen in the history of wrestling in terms of his promos and his ability to connect with the audience, connect on camera. And I always laughed, when I would watch the Briscoes work. I mean, his little daughters, I'm like, what was it like to have this dude tucking them in every night? I mean, he is so crazy looking, and he was just so perfect and so tailor-made. Both those boys were for pro wrestling, and watch them evolve from teenagers when they first kind of got started out. I believe they were self-trained, and really kind of evolve into who they were today as a team. The Briscoes, even though I don't think I really became aware of their work until a few years ago, I always knew they existed, seeing pictures, because I'm not really a Ring of Honor scholar, but I remember the Punk and Joe days. I remember Danielson's run and the Kings of Wrestling and things like that. So I know enough about Ring of Honor to always know who the Briscoes were. But in terms of really being able to get a good look at their work, I don't think that happened for me until like maybe the last 3 to 5 years. And just a couple of months ago, I was watching whatever they did in Impact a few months back with Gallows and Anderson. Gallows and Anderson went to their house and were about to fight Papa Briscoe, who's hilarious. And then the Briscoes show up in the truck, and there's this big brawl. Like, they've always done really fun stuff. And every time I've ever seen them cut a promo, there's an element of connection that especially Jay had that's really, really hard to describe. And he had something about him that very, very few other wrestlers have. Like I said, that ability to be funny and terrifying all at the same time, while being a really legit. I mean, they came off as legit. When people poke fun at pro wrestling and they say things, it's fake, right? I think if you showed some of those people some Briscoes promos, they might question that, because they really had a feeling of legitimacy to them. You felt what they were saying, and you were a little bit fucking terrified of the team. And if I was a wrestler, I wouldn't want to be getting in there with those guys because they're fucking crazy looking. And they were so unique, so interesting, Jay in particular, and they were just an unbelievably overact. And it's a shame that they never got a spot or a shot in WWE. And even with some of the controversies surrounding AEW and getting them in there, which we'll talk about later, even without that stuff, without them making it to WWE, NXT, AEW, they made their mark to the point where they were very well known. I mean, even WWE, to their credit, Jay passed away on Tuesday night while there was a live NXT airing on USA Network. The news of Jay's death, I believe, came in already as NXT was on the air. And they made mention of Jay Briscoe on the air and offered condolences to the family. And they even had a funeral segment spot planned with the New Day, doing something with that other team they're feuding with. What's their names? Pretty Deadly. And they changed it. They changed it because they recognized that could be insensitive. And it's a really good thing that show was live that night, because I would have hated it if they would have taped that funeral segment. There's a couple of other instances like that in wrestling where something was taped and the timing was just really, really bad. It might have been something with one of the mass shootings in WWE. I forgot what it was. But I'm really glad that they were live that night, and they had the wherewithal to know to make and call an audible there. I don't know if that was Sean's call or Triple H's call or what, but they realized, hey, with Jay's death, maybe we should not go out there and start talking about death in a funeral segment. Very cool that they were able to change that, and very cool of them to mention something on commentary. Michael Cole mentioned Jay Briscoe last night on SmackDown as well. So, one thing about this week that we've seen is that a lot of people's stupid, silly tribalism fighting, online fighting that you see amongst wrestling fans, especially with AEW fans and WWE fans, felt like there was a lot of this going on this week. And I even mentioned recently that one person, even though I respect the dog shit out of him, one person I just don't listen to anymore is Jim Cornette, because I don't understand how a person can spend all of their time making a point to let the world know how much they hate another wrestling company. And so I'm like, I'm just done with that fucking attitude and that stuff. I'm just not going to engage in that. I just think it's too much misery. It's too much anger. It's too much hate for no reason whatsoever. And I clicked on Jim's video of Jay Briscoe, and that dude was in tears in the first 3 minutes, sobbing uncontrollably in his hour-long tribute to Jay Briscoe. And it was, I don't want to say I smiled because this is so heartbreaking, but I kind of was like, it's really nice to hear the real Jim sometimes, because I think with YouTube and podcasts these days, people who tune into Jim Cornette are tuning into him to hear him do one specific thing, and that's shit on AEW, because they whack off to that and they love it. They can't put words and sentences together on their own, so they have to live vicariously through somebody else that can actually do those things. And I always felt that's extremely lame and unoriginal, and the fact that people tune in just to hear somebody spew out anger is just a really strange way to live. And I think having that amount, knowing that I have to go on a podcast every day and make sure that I spend X amount of time satisfying that niche of my audience, feels like it would get really stressful and really old to have to do that every day. And to hear Jim so emotional, nothing he could give to. Actually, I take that back. He actually made a point to put over the Briscoes for being self-trained, but made sure he shit on others for being self-trained. So there still was the Jim hypocrisy in there. But I felt like I was listening to the real Jim, because he had a great relationship with those guys and worked with them. And he was destroyed over this. And it was hard to hear him talk. And you think about all the other people that Jay was close with, all the wrestlers he worked with, the Sami Zayns and the Kevin Owens and everybody that passed through Ring of Honor, with the armbands, with the tweets. The night that Jay Briscoe died, you go on your social media feed, Twitter, Instagram feed. Mine, anyway, my personal Twitter feed, Greg Morgan's, was 100% Jay Briscoe. I could have scrolled for 3 hours and not seen a tweet that didn't have Jay Briscoe's name mentioned in it. And they deserve credit for that, because to be able to be that well known, make that much of a name without the exposure of a WWE or an AEW is pretty incredible. And to have that amount of love from so many people across so many promotions, the Wrestle Kingdom last night, they tributed Jay Briscoe. Same thing with Dynamite. They filmed a Ring of Honor tribute for them, or for him, after Dynamite. They've made mention of him several times on WWE. And it's been nice to kind of see that when tragedy strikes, the wrestling community, who is normally at each other's throats for, like I said, no reason at all, can really come together and say, regardless of what side you sit of this fuckboy war that we seem to be in the middle of, it's nice to see everybody come together and just be heartbroken together, because this is really, really sad. And for those who don't know, Jay Briscoe, Jamin Pugh, a.k.a. Jay Briscoe, was involved in a fatal car crash this past Tuesday in Laurel, Delaware. He was driving. Apparently, this area is very rural area. Driving, I think it might have been a 2-lane road, or maybe a 2-lane road with a median. And driving his pickup truck with his 2 daughters in the back seat. Apparently, he was driving them to cheerleading practice. Maybe one of them was in the front seat. I don't know. Jay was not wearing his seatbelt. They're driving along just like any other day, taking his daughters to cheerleading practice, probably having a good time in the car, goofing off, messing around, whatever. They're in a pickup truck. Lady, coming the opposite way, is also in a pickup truck, and for reasons that are unknown at this time, she just crossed over the middle lane, right into traffic, and hit them head on. And I believe she and Jay were pronounced dead at the scene, and it took quite a while to get his daughters out of the car. and they were in very critical condition. One went in for surgery right away. There was talk of paralysis, spinal cord injuries, and they were both in very, very grave danger. And this was coming out minute by minute. Every few minutes you'd learn something else, and it gave me this vibe of Kobe, because I don't know what the date of his death was, but we're right at the 3-year anniversary of Kobe Bryant's death right now. And when Kobe died, you heard about the way wrestling reacted on social media was the same way the world reacted when they heard about the Kobe news. Because even though as wrestling fans, we've all experienced some extremely horrific tragedies, we've seen very few times where collectively we're all gasping going, no, oh God, no, please tell me God, no. And that's what it was when you heard about Jay Briscoe. You didn't really know. He's dead. Oh God, car accident. Oh shit. Same thing with Kobe Bryant. What? He's dead? What? This can't be real. And you're starting to see more and more. And then it comes out that it was a helicopter accident. That's all bad enough. And then Jericho tweets out something to the effect of, it's a lot worse than you think, guys. And so that made me think that his entire family was in the car, that both parents are dead, and the kids survived, and now they have to grow up without parents. Well, luckily, the wife, Jay's wife, was not in the car. It was just his 2 daughters. I thought that maybe one of them was going to die. They have both lived. It sounds like they are both going to live. No, I don't think their lives are necessarily in danger at this point now. I think they're out of the woods there. But in terms of the road of recovery they have ahead of them, regaining feeling, learning to walk again, that stuff's never going to end for them. They're going to be dealing with this and remembering this for the rest of their lives. So very grateful that they survived, but heartbroken for them that they've lost their father. Relieved that the mother was not in the car, because if she was, they could have lost both parents, and that would have been a level of cruelty that I just would have been struggled to accept. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, Jesus, are you fucking kidding me? And it's just a freak thing, like we all, especially me, I've complained lots over the years about how frustrated and angry I get with all of these needless wrestling deaths, because you can't even watch old wrestling videotapes or wrestling shows without seeing 50% of the roster as ghosts. And it gets really old when you know that so many of these people should be here today, but with a situation like this, what happened to Jake could happen to any one of us, me, you guys. Last year, Elizabeth and I both wrecked our cars terribly. I totaled mine the day before Thanksgiving. A few months before that, she was hit by a teenager who fell asleep at the wheel and spun her out on the freeway. Her accident was worse than mine. However, luckily for her, she didn't have her car wasn't totaled, but it was a very, very scary situation. But it was very, very late at night. Had it been in the middle of the day when the 6-lane freeway is filled with cars, the situation could have been very, very different for her. Same thing with me. Just a freak accident. Pedestrian ran out in the road. A car hit him, slammed on his brakes, and then I ran into that car. And I walked away with, Elizabeth walked away with nothing but, a little bit of shaken up and anxiety. I walked away with a burn on my wrist for my airbag, but otherwise walked away, was completely fine. And it almost feels unfair, that what the difference between my situation and his situation is just pure dumb luck. So hug your people, man, and be careful on the road. You never know. That's why I don't even like to drive very much at all. It's just, I don't like the feeling of just knowing that going out to get gas, you could not come home, because something crazy could just happen and it could be bad timing. And when you think about, I've had friends, I've lost friends in car accidents. I've lost friends in tragic situations, or family members in tragic situations where that if they just would have left the house 30 seconds later, they'd be alive today. That is really hard to live with. And I've had several instances in my life that, where I felt that. And I'm like, God, it's just like, it makes you angry. And so I can only imagine what the family is going through. Jay's wife, Jay's brother, his whole family, his father, all of his friends, all the wrestlers that he worked with over the years. It's, something like this is just so tragic that you wonder why life has to be so cruel, sometimes. And it's infuriating, but at the same time, nothing can be done to change it. All you can do is do your best to support the family and do whatever you can to help them. And that's why we're here today, to do whatever we can to donate to the Pugh family. And they've been shown lots of love from everyone in the community. And it's just an all-around sad situation. Now, there are no funeral plans at this point that I've heard of for Jay Briscoe. Sounds like his daughters are still fighting for their lives. Now, there is some positive news to share about his daughters, and I will be getting into all the shout-outs, super chats in just one second. There is some positive news about his daughters. I guess it's a family friend, Josh Wharton, posted a Facebook Live update yesterday on Friday evening. So these... I think I've got transcripts here of this. I do. So Jaylee, here's what they said in the Facebook Live update. Jaylee, 9, who's 9 years old, has had pain on and off today. She was fitted for her back brace and sat up on the side of the bed with assistance from staff. She was moved into a wheelchair for about an hour. Unfortunately, she still has the NG tube in place and is unable to eat or drink at this time. They are hoping that tomorrow they can take the tube out so she can eat some real food. She's still on IV medications and spends most of her days sleeping, so they've got her heavily medicated. She's severely injured and probably in a lot of pain. Gracie, 12 years old, had a rough night with lots of tingling and itching in her lower legs. Today, she started the day with occupational therapy, and she has regained feeling in her lower extremities. Thank God. She is also able to make movements in her lower extremities, so that's great because she wasn't able to do that before in the previous updates. She was able to make small movements in her legs, with her legs by using her thigh muscle. We are so grateful. She was up in a wheelchair multiple times, which she enjoys. All of Gracie's IV medications have been discontinued at this time, and she's been switched to oral pain medication, so that's also good. She is still groggy from all the medication and all of the sleeping. At this time, rehab is recommended for both girls. Although both girls haven't had improvements today, they both have a long road of recovery ahead of them. It was said that their brother, Gannon, Mark Briscoe, and Papa Briscoe were able to visit the girls on Friday. The family continues to thank and ask for prayers. And that's a really positive update about the daughters. Obviously, these are going to be permanent injuries that they're going to live with for the rest of their lives, but it does sound like the absolute worst-case scenario is not the worst-case scenario. And that's reassuring, and just best of luck to both of them. Just 9 and 12. These are little kids, man. Little kids that have to worry about spinal fractures and shit. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, like I said earlier, AEW did tape a Ring of Honor tribute show for Jay Briscoe after Dynamite went off the air this past Wednesday. I'm not sure when this is going to air yet. I think it's going to be on YouTube. But they have Claudio against Christopher Daniels, Eddie Kingston against QT Marshall, Juice Robinson and Brandon Cutler, Athena versus Madison Rain, Wheeler Yuta, Yuka Sakazaki, and Marina Shafir all have matches on that show as well. I think that's going to be a YouTube show, or it's going to air when they finally launch the Honor Club. Now, Warner Brothers Discovery reportedly did not allow AEW to run a tribute show for Jay on Wednesday. Now, Warner Brothers Discovery have also not been allowing the Briscoes to be featured on AEW TV because of the past comments made by Jay Briscoe, which we will talk about in a second. Now, what makes that so ridiculous is that on Wednesday, after Dynamite was off the air, Dana White's Power Slap show debuted. This was the show that was pushed back an extra week because Dana White was caught on video slapping his wife on New Year's Eve. And so the punishment was to delay the show a week or 2 weeks or whatever it was, and then air it after Dynamite. Dynamite being a solid lead-in to a show like that, you would think. That is absolutely mind-blowing, that this buffoon slaps his wife in public and they keep that show on the air. Jay Briscoe, which we'll talk about in a minute, comments made 10 years ago, the dude has spent a decade atoning for that, doing everything he can to apologize repeatedly, and working with gay wrestlers and doing everything he can to apologize for his past thoughts, his past opinions, and he's done such a good job of that there hasn't been anybody in the wrestling business that I've seen that hasn't forgiven him for that, because he went through the process. He went through the steps to atone for those mistakes, and he did them well enough to be welcomed back into the good graces of his peers. If anything, that sets a good example of what should be put on TV, right? Because this is a guy that learned from mistakes and changed for the better. It was a learning experience for him. That's a lesson. That's a message that can be delivered. That's somebody you should put on TV. You don't have to focus on it or anything, but the fact that they were cock-blocking the Briscoes and they allow this fucking idiot, Dana White, to have this ridiculously dangerous show that is just a parade of CTE. It's crazy that two guys stand in front of each other and slap the other in the face and in the head as hard as they can to turn their brains into applesauce after what we've seen from Chris Benoit and Junior Seau and all sorts of other people affected by this brain condition that can make you literally batshit crazy, violent, and extremely evil. And now they are highlighting this as a way to what? Entice people to start doing this, or to join this sport. I wouldn't even call this a sport. It's not a sport. It's ridiculous. And you already saw a couple of really nasty shots. One guy went down like this. Chris Nowinski had a lot to say about this. He goes, this is messed up that you guys are putting this on television. And it is. And normally I wouldn't even care about Dana White's Slap Boy show because I would never watch it and I think it's stupid. But the fact that that's allowed to be on TBS and Warner Brothers Discovery, for some reason, I guess it's just because they don't know the whole story. They might just look at what Jay Briscoe said. Oh yeah, that's fucked up. We can't have that guy on our network. But do you want to see what happened after that? This is a guy that actually went through the right steps to fix this. It's not like Hulk Hogan, where he spent decades murdering his own reputation and then says something horribly racist that gets him blackballed from WWE and removed from the Hall of Fame. And then when he comes back, he gives the worst fucking apology ever. If anything, he didn't even apologize. He warned other wrestlers not to have the cameras rolling when they're going to say something controversial because they might get screwed like he did. That's not an apology. And what Jay Briscoe did is completely different from that situation and a lot of other situations, because there are some people who have made mistakes and have not atoned for those sins at all. If anything, they've doubled down on them, or they've done nothing to be a better person or change or recognize their ignorance or anything like that, where Briscoe did the exact opposite of that. And I think that is something that should be highlighted, not hidden. And to see Dana White's show be able to air after what he did on camera is a level of hypocrisy that I didn't even think was possible. Now, the good news, the silver lining in here is that Dana White's Slap Boy, or whatever it's called, did an abysmal rating. Holy shit, 295,000 viewers, which means the moment AEW went off the air, 650,000 people changed the channel instantly. It's like when Tony Schiavone told people that Foley winning the title would put butts in seats. It did, and it put fingers on remotes. And I'm very happy to see that people are very turned off by this. Hopefully these numbers stay low. Hopefully TBS just dumps this entire project because it's dangerous, it's irresponsible, and it's fucked up, man. So that's my thoughts on the whole Warner Brothers Discovery, Jay Briscoe, Dana White stuff. Of course, it's hypocritical. We all know that, but what can you do? So AEW taped a Ring of Honor tribute show instead. A lot of armbands on Dynamite, a lot of armbands on WWE. There's still a lot of love. So despite Warner Brothers hypocrisy, fuck them, right? The more important thing here is Briscoe's family and the recovery that his daughters are going to be going through. And hopefully, we will continue to hear updates. It sounds like his friends are going to be very good about posting updates on Facebook. They even said in the Facebook Live post yesterday that they would post more updates as soon as they get them. If they get any news, good news, or just news in general, even if it's bad, they made sure that they will update the fans on everything once they get the okay from the family to do so. And they'll be providing those updates for us. So we will continue to watch and hope and pray, and whatever you want to do for the family is what we need to do, because those girls are in for a rough road, and it just really sucks for them. So all the best to the Briscoe family, the Pugh family, and everything they're about to go through here. I just can't imagine. Can't imagine the heartbreak and being in this position to have to mourn someone like this in this way under these circumstances. It's just absolutely heartbreaking. But anyway, let me just take a quick pause, gather my thoughts, because we have more Briscoe stuff to talk about. But I want to say hi to the chat. I have not done that yet. So we have not said a single thing to the chat. Usually I'm in here shouting out everybody, but kind of a different podcast this week. I want to say hello to Mr. Muggies, I can't see you because my pinned comment is in the way. Tatanani, good to see you, man. JL, Dem Boys, for sure. 17-10 Chiefs. It is 20-10 Chiefs right now in the third, end of the third. So it looks like the Jaguars are on their way out of the playoffs, although they're only down 10 with a quarter left. So that game is going on right now. I apologize for going head-to-head with that game. Unfortunately, it's starting to look like the Jaguars might not be holding up an AEW title belt at the Super Bowl celebration. But hey, they still made the playoffs, still had a hell of a year, and they still might win this game against the 14-3 Kansas City Chiefs. We've got Chaz Medeiros in the house, member for 3 months. Happy birthday to you. I think you said later on that you are 44. You're not an old bat like Tatanani, who's 56, and you're not an old bat like me, who's 45. You're underneath us. Happy birthday to you, my friend. 44, halfway to 88. Yeah, glad you're here, man, and thanks for being here, as always. Muhammad is in the house as well. So is Big J. David Hosier in the house as well. So is the Juliet, Jay Lambo, David Brown, Ronnie, Ian Dunn, and who else did I get there? And George Morris rounding out the channel members. I want to start with some of these super chats. Let's start with James Kowalski. Thank you very much for that $5. Rest in peace, Jay Briscoe. George Morris, thank you for that 5 as well. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? How is Tito? Are you watching football playoffs? Looking forward to tomorrow's Royal Rumble in 1999 watch-along. Good memories. Yes, tomorrow's watch-along will be a lot of fun. Royal Rumble 1999. Link is already up on the channel, and I think the link is in the description as well. Somebody earlier mentioned the members-only watch-along, and I did not touch on that earlier. I talked about tomorrow's Rumble 99 watch-along. I talked about Raw 30's live reaction on Monday and our Royal Rumble videos, but we still have to do a members-only watch-along. So I did put up a post in the tab for the members just a couple of days ago asking for them to suggest some WCW Monday Nitros. I figured it's been a while since we've done a Nitro. They'd make for a perfect members-only watch-along, and I got a couple of recommendations for the same show, so I think we're going to go with it. It's going to be the Monday Nitro, August 4th, 1997. That was the night that Lex Luger beat Hulk Hogan for the WCW title, a very memorable show. That will be a perfect one to do. The only thing that I haven't done yet is nail down a date for that. I was thinking that maybe we could do it a week from tomorrow. I don't have a watch-along planned on the 29th, the day after the Royal Rumble, because that's Championship Sunday here in the States for NFL. So we've got the NFC and AFC title game, the two games that determine who's going to face each other in the Super Bowl, take place next Sunday, and I figured that might be a difficult day to come up and do a watch-along, especially since I might be at a family member's house watching those games. But if I'm not, maybe after that second game, maybe a little bit later than normal, since this is a shorter show, we'll come up and do a members-only watch-along 1 week from tomorrow, but I'm not totally sure on that yet. All I know is I know what show we're going to watch. We're going to watch the August 4th 1997 Nitro. Just need to nail down an exact date on that. And right now, I've got my eye on the 29th. So just stay tuned for that, George Morris and the rest of you. Sam, Mark Simpson, Ben Espinoza, good to see you. Zach Palgett, thank you so much for the $2. Love what you're doing. Good mic work. Rest in peace, Jay. Luke McAllister, thank you for that super chat as well. What's up, Greg? Hard to believe Raw has been airing longer than I've been alive. Yeah. It's been airing longer than a lot of people have been alive. Also, rest in peace, Jay Briscoe. What a tragic way to go. It's just, I'm lost for words. Like all week, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You know, it's like one of those things where you're just like, I don't get it. You know, I just don't get it. You know, why life can be so horrifically awful sometimes. Unreal. Gorillas fan is here. Red Raven Rucker in the house. Sonic Plays. We've got Sam. We've got Nicola. And we've got Nicole Lensing with a very generous super chat, although I'm not sure what that currency is. Thank you very much, Nicole, for that. Hey, good mic work. Long-time listener for 12 years now from Germany. Wow. Just wanted to say thanks for all the great content you have provided over the years. Rest in peace, Jay Briscoe. Well wishes and thoughts to his family and friends during this difficult time. Couldn't have said it better myself, Nicole. Thank you so much. And thanks for being here and for listening all these years. I know you are a channel member as well, and I appreciate that. Our hearts are torn in half, over this. It's just fucking awful, Who's next? Let me go up here to see Chris Barrera. Appreciate the 5 from you as well. Hope everyone is having a good day. Rest in peace, Jay Briscoe. Also, Isaac, JJ Leg, Jay Lambo chiming in the chat. Good to see you guys here as well. Joe Brill, nice to see you. JJ Leg, thank you for that $2. Wish AEW was allowed to air his tribute show. Yeah, we're going to get into that in a second. Tatanani, I know I got you earlier. Brian Hipp is here as well. Max Pilkebra in the house. We've got Destiny. We've got Randy Peace. Yeah, I remember when Kobe died, it was like that. Randy's right. When we first started, if you're watching this in real time, you're just praying that it's a hoax or somebody's making some sick, disgusting joke. But then the more people start responding to it and the more it starts becoming clear that it's true. It's a very terrible process to go through for a fan. So you can only imagine what it must be for family. Horrible. Cynthia Christie, rest in peace. David Crosby as well. Yes, passed away this week. Very sad. Chaz Medeiros, thank you for the $1. That'll go straight to the Pugh family as well. Who else we got in here? Mark Gallen, appreciate the $2. Young Bucks Briscoes are yin and yang in many ways. They are. What a match. That dog collar match was one of the gnarliest things I've ever seen. I made that photo of the 4 of them chugging beer, tequila, or whatever in the locker room after that match as my Facebook banner, for the next week or so, just because it's going to be one of the things I'm always going to remember Jay for, is something that he did, one of the very last things he did in his life. That was the last match they had, right? They haven't wrestled since the dog collar match, right? Do I have that right? What a way to go out, man. Got to feel for FTR, Dax especially, who's been very vocal. It's got to be tough for them, man. Motown Slim, 47. You're older than me, man. Mohammed, I'm not sure if I got you earlier. Make sure I got everybody here. Right on. Okay. Thank you, Juliet, for doing that. I appreciate it. Well, in terms of Jay Briscoe, one of the other things we wanted to talk about regarding him was what I mentioned earlier. Now, AEW apparently wanted to run some sort of a tribute for him on Wednesday night, but Warner Brothers Discovery didn't allow them to. That's the report anyway. Now, in terms of actual names of the executives who are making these decisions, who knows? I have no idea. It was just made known. It was floating around out there that apparently they did not want AEW to air that because they were worried about backlash or something from the audience, which there wouldn't be any because wrestling fans are, kind of cool with Jay and they're okay with the steps he's taken since he's made those stupid comments. And then, of course, we talked about the hypocrisy with the Dana White show and all of that. Now, for those wondering, years ago, I think it's been about 10 years now, Jay Briscoe made some incredibly homophobic comments. And Jay Briscoe, as we all know, he's self-admitted, he's a country boy. Good old country boy. They live in a very rural area there. Their whole gimmick is to be as country as possible. Now, I currently live in Southern California, but I used to live in the South. I used to live in North Carolina. And I went to elementary and high school in a rural town, and I was around a lot of good old country people. Some of the greatest people you can ever meet. But also, there's also an underbelly side there that I was around all the time, and you have homophobia and racism runs very deep in the South. Always has, it's still there. And I was around it a lot as a kid, and I feel like I can speak on this a little bit because I kind of understand, Jay's life and where he came from. Now, even though I lived in the South, I was a transplant. I came from the North. So I moved to North Carolina from the North. I wasn't born and raised there, but I lived there enough to really understand and know the culture there and made some of the best friends and best relationships I've ever had and became a wrestling fan in that part of the country, So I was around that a lot in school, and homophobic slurs were a regular thing. You'd hear the F word in songs. People would, it was just a regular thing to say. And as society has changed and become more tolerant, and how much hate and bigotry kind of exists in certain parts of the country, I understand that it's pretty common for people around these parts to have these opinions. That's the best way I can kind of put it. Not excusing what Jay said at all. But once he said that, and, you know, they weren't able to get into WWE, I believe, because of those comments. And it wasn't a situation of, oh shit, I said something stupid, it might cost me money, I got to make some fake ass apology. I think he really understood that because of the response and the backlash that he got, that he did something wrong. And he started really trying to become more understanding, more aware, more tolerant. And he spent 10 years with multiple apologies. Now, I pulled aside one here because one of the more recent apologies that he did came back in March of last year, March of 2022. He did an interview with Battleground Podcast. These transcripts are provided by Fightful. And here's a snippet from that interview. And I quote, "I want to say thank you to the people who really know. We get labeled as homophobes," Briscoe said. "I put out a stupid tweet 9 years ago, the most dumbest, immature, obnoxious shit I've ever done. I don't want anybody from any walk of life to feel they can't care for the Briscoes because I promise we love everybody. We love everybody and we just want to go out there and be pro wrestlers and give the best match that we can. I said some dumb shit a long time ago. I apologized for it, and I apologize for it again. I was stupid. I feel like now there are people who look at us like we can't cheer for them because they hate a certain group of people. We don't hate nobody. We love everybody. We're just some country boys. I thought I was taking a stand for the Lord back in the day." And that right there is what made me give him instant forgiveness. Because as someone who lived in that part of the country, I lived around people to both sides of this coin. I lived around a lot of good old deep country people that just loved everybody. Didn't give two shits who's kissing who, what bathroom somebody's using, who somebody's going to marry. They don't fucking care. Just good old bluegrass hippies, live and let live, whatever. I knew lots of those people there. Some of the best friends I've ever made in my life are exactly like that. Deep and Southern to their core, but they love everybody. They don't get caught up in the racism, the bigotry that you see in a part of the country like that. And where I lived had an abundance of churches and a scarcity in basic education. And I really think that sometimes people just don't know any better. And I think with Jay, he doesn't really truly believe those things. You know, he doesn't really truly hate gay or lesbian or trans people. You know, these are things that he has been made to believe that his religion is against. And like he said, he was taking a stand for the Lord. And that's what he felt. And I feel like a lot of people, I feel like that's one of the big problems with religion is that it, intentionally or not, can really promote hate and intolerance. And a lot of people who have these feelings about homosexuals, it's religiously driven. And I've always thought that was just absolutely insane to me that people can take it to that degree. So when you see somebody realize that and realize, you know, you can still honor the Lord, you can still be religious without having to have these issues with people. Part of, at least I would think, part of being a Christian is being accepting and being, you know, and loving everyone as your brother. And being a good person, kind-hearted, all of that, and being just accepting and letting people live their lives the way they have the right to, not because of some mythical book. And that's always driven me crazy, which is why I'm agnostic and I'm an atheist, you know, because I've always maintained that people who have these beliefs, the reason they are the way they are is because that's what everybody around them is. If you are a religious person right now, if you are a Christian, have you ever asked yourself why? Why are you a Christian right now? Because that's what you were told to be. You didn't become one on your own, most likely. Some people do. But if you were born in Pakistan, you wouldn't be believing in Jesus Christ right now. You'd be believing in Muhammad. There are 2,000 gods out there. There's no difference between me and you. I'm an atheist and you're a Christian. You realize we're exactly the same almost? I don't believe in 2,000 gods. You don't believe in 1,999 gods. You just believe one more God than I do. That's it. Because if you believe in a God, what that means is you don't believe in all of the other gods that are out there. And all the other gods don't believe in yours. I just don't believe in all of them. So it's easy for me. But being around that part of the country, living there for so long, I saw a lot of homophobia. I saw a lot of racism. And when it came to the homophobia, the racism was hate-driven. The homophobia, it felt like it was really based in religion somehow. And I always just felt it gave me a feeling of dirtiness. I didn't like it. I want to just wash myself of it. I just hated. I'm like, just get it off of me. It feels dirty. It feels gross. And granted, it's not all like that. I just got done saying that I had a lot of good old country boy friends that were accepting of everybody. And I've also seen a lot of churches the same way. I do know that there are churches that do not discriminate. I know that they're out there, but there are a lot that do. And the deeper in the South you get, the worse those issues really seem to be. And anytime somebody can use their past mistakes to learn and grow and break free from the bigotry and intolerance that surrounds them, that is a success story. That is somebody that realizes that, hey, there's a lot more in this world than your own little rural church-going bubble right here. There's a big world. This world is huge. It's not 2,000 years old. It's 4 billion years old with a ton of history and a lot of places to live and a lot of people scattered across this globe. And for people to be able to finally realize that and change, I respect that because I came from that part of the country. And as somebody who lived around so many of these people, it's like I almost didn't blame them. I had a lot of friends when I was a kid, when I was a teenager and stuff that had no tolerance whatsoever for anything gay. Didn't want anything gay near them anywhere because they thought if they saw a dick, they'd turn gay or something. It was that bad. The homophobia was so strong. And I always just laughed and I'm like, I almost don't even blame them because they just don't get it and they don't know any better. And I think as you grow and mature and get older, you start to become wiser. You start to learn things. You start to recognize, oh my God, I was an idiot back then. And unfortunately for Jay, his was a tweet. All of you in the chat right now, myself, I have said some incredibly stupid shit in my life. And I'm so glad that it wasn't on TV or on Twitter or anything like that. I have said dumb shit when I was a kid. We have all done it. And we all kind of look back now and we cringe. We're like, God, that was embarrassing. I'm glad that shit wasn't on TV because I know better now. And I'm not that stupid moron that I was 30 years ago. I'm a grown ass man now who's learned a thing or two in the 45 years I've been alive. Same thing with Jay Briscoe, died at 38 years old. He made these comments when he was a lot younger and had a lot less experience and wisdom in life. And that stuff comes as you get older and you grow and you mature and you get out and you look at the world and you realize what's out there, and it's not just all, cow tipping and fields and churches. There's a big world out there. And I think the more we realize that and the more you live your life, hopefully, most people can realize that. So when I see somebody who can get away from that culture and say, you know what? No, this is bullshit. I can still love the Lord and be a good old country boy without having to hate gays. It can be done. And Jay Briscoe is living proof of that. I have friends that are living proof of that. I'm not shitting on the South. There are good-hearted people in the South. They are there, but there's also ones that are never going to be able to escape this feeling of that the liberals are here to take their guns and fuck their kids with transsexual dicks and shit. Like it's that's the part that's there that I just wish we could get rid of, because everybody else, the South is a very charming place. It can be a very charming place. And seeing the multiple apologies from Jay and how we say, we don't hate nobody, man. We just love everybody. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. I feel like a fucking moron for saying what I said. All I can do is try to make amends for it and try to atone for it and apologize as much as I possibly can. He has been welcomed back by the LGBTQ community. Everybody in wrestling who may have had a problem with what he said has forgiven him. He's worked with gay wrestlers. He's tried to make amends for that, to say, hey, I just want to let everybody know that I have no issue with this. And he's gone out of his way to learn. And for that, I commend him. Yes, he said something stupid, but nobody's above rehabilitation. I don't think what he did was beyond repair. There are some people that they've had too many chances, or they've murdered their reputation enough to where there's just no coming back from it. The Teddy Harts of the world, the truly evil assholes, people who do bad shit, commit crimes, and are just rotten individuals. Those people, everybody can be rehabilitated, but I think they're a lot worse than what Jay said. This was a tweet. This was an opinion. This was a belief that he had that he now realizes was idiotic. And he's done everything he can and did everything he can up until his death to apologize for that. And every situation is different. Whatever a wrestler does, if they do something stupid, or if a celebrity does something fucked up and they've got to apologize for it, it's up to us individually, you and me, to just judge the situation, and you can decide if you forgive this person or not. So if any of you are in the chat are well aware of what Jay Briscoe said, and you look at all of his apologies over the last 10 years and everything he's done over the last 9 and 10 years to fix that situation, and it doesn't satisfy you, then it's your right to not forgive him. Totally. But I'm choosing to, because I feel like he's definitely put in the work and gone through the process to make himself a better person. And I don't think that should have been an issue in his career as late as it was. I think this is something that should have been able to have been handled. He should have been able to been featured on Dynamite, and Warner Brothers Discovery should have never had an issue with that. So basically, I just wanted to get my 2 cents in there in terms of what Briscoe said. I remember it when it happened. It was a big deal. We've talked about it on the show before, about those type of opinions and everything, but I felt like I had a personal connection to it because, man, I spent 23 years in the South, and I saw both sides of that. I know the country people that are homophobic and racist, and I also know the country people that love everybody. And to see Jay Briscoe transition from one side of that to the other is something that I can respect, because I get it and I understand it, because I lived around that shit for so many years. So good for him, man. Good for him. And good for anybody else in the chat who has made a mistake or something. Yeah, I got a couple of DMs. I put a tweet up the other day, kind of highlighting what I was just talking about there, about living in a very homophobic part of the country, and how much I appreciated and admired Jay's ability to break free of that intolerance that surrounds, so much of that part of the country. And I got a couple of DMs from people saying, man, good mic work. I'm glad nobody ever heard me say this or that. And, one guy, I'm not going to say who, but, kind of told me, he's like, I kind of said the N-word, and I feel like a fucking asshole for it, And I got that, it's like, well, it's like, I'm not the one you have to apologize to, but I get it. We say stupid shit. And I think once you realize how dumb it was, and you look back and you regret it, or you look back and you're embarrassed about it, that's part of the whole process. Like, as long as you understand that that was fucked up, then, all you can do is just apologize and move on and know not to be that way again. That's all you can do. You can't rewind time. You can't rewind and suck them words back into your mouth. They already came out. So all you can do is do your best to better yourself from it. And in the case of Jay Briscoe, I personally believe that he did that. So that's all I'm going to say on the Briscoe situation. Like I said, horribly tragic, heartbreaking situation unfolding last Tuesday with the loss of Jay. It's broken the wrestling world's heart. He was unique and a one-of-a-kind performer like we've never seen. Him and his brother were a totally unique and insane tag team, and he had a level of connection with the fans that was just different than what other people had, because you felt it, and he could scare the shit out of you, man. And what a performer. What a performer. Rest in peace, Jay Briscoe, and all the best to his family. And like I said, once we're done here today, all of the super chat amounts, plus a personal donation from me, we'll send it over to the GoFundMe or whatever the page is that they have. And we'll make sure that it's known that it's from the Good Mike Work family. It's from all of us, because we just want to do whatever we can to help out that family and those 2 little girls that are now staring down the road of a lot of rehab. A lot of rehab. Anyway, let's move on to some more delightful news, shall we, since we spent the first hour on Jay Briscoe. Vince McMahon has reached a settlement with Rita Chatterton. Now, Rita Chatterton, of course, was the referee who accused Vince McMahon of raping her in the 80s. She has never she has stuck to her story all these years, and she's repeated it many times. And apparently she was seeking out some sort of a settlement from Vince. Now, the Wall Street Journal reported this week that Vince had, in fact, reached a settlement with Rita. The report says that Vince received a letter in December of last year demanding $11 million, says that Rita did agree to a smaller amount, but that amount is unknown. All that they know is she was paid off and a settlement was reached. Vince McMahon's lawyer, Jerry McDivitt, gave a statement to the Wall Street Journal in the report in which he reiterated that McMahon continues to deny raping Chatterton and said that he settled the case to avoid the cost of litigation. Just don't want to deal with it, I guess. So he's willing to pay her off. I don't know, man. I know every story about Vince McMahon is just so gross. I just think if I was accused of rape and I didn't do it, I would not rest until I was proven innocent. I was like, I don't want to die thinking people thought I raped this girl. If I didn't, I would do everything I could. I would not rest until I made it known and somehow proved that I didn't do it, unless he just feels like it can't be proven, because apparently all of this took place in the back of a limousine. So just to pay her off to avoid the cost of litigation, this billionaire doesn't want to spend a couple of million to clear his name in rape charges. He's got better things to do than that. So the settlement with Rita Chatterton has been reached. We probably won't hear any more about that situation anymore, because if Vince paid her off, then she probably also has some sort of NDA or whatever, and any other future interviews she does, she cannot claim that Vince raped her. That's at least my assumption, even though I could be wrong. But that is probably what the WWE board was referring to when they originally Heismaned Vince and said, no, we don't want you back because we feel like your presence here could really do damage to the value of the company. And in light of more controversy that the board has been made aware of that has not been made public yet, this is probably what they were talking about. So Vince has paid her off, God knows how much, to keep her quiet. Sorry, I took Dayquil, so my voice is kind of all over the place. And speaking of the whole Vince McMahon situation, this is fun. Nick Khan did an interview with Bill Simmons, and there was some interesting quotes in this thing, to say the least. Now, on the subject of Vince coming back, this is what Nick Khan has to say. So crazy. Let me find it. And I quote, from the inside, this is from the mouth of Nick Khan. From the inside, it's not that insane to me. But when you're on the inside, you sort of see things that are coming and you know what might be coming. My thoughts have always been there's only one boss in WWE, and Vince is the founder and creator of the company, the founder. He's also, no, he's not. He's also the controlling shareholder. That's not a work term. That's a legal term. It was always my point of view, always Stephanie's point of view, that at some point he could come back. The way he played it to me was smart in that he went away for 5 or 6 months, which the audience seems to like when somebody does that. What? He came back and took control back. He came back and took control back of his company as a controlling shareholder. With that controlling share, gave him a lot of authority, and he used it. I applaud him for doing so. Nick Khan's this guy's such a kiss ass. Nick Khan voted against having Vince coming back, didn't he? Wasn't it a unanimous board vote that Vince doesn't return at this time? And then he said, fuck you, I'm coming back anyway. Now all of a sudden he's applauded for doing it. God, this guy, so full of shit. Asked if Vince forced his way back in by using his controlling shareholder status, Khan said, I didn't see it as a force. I think Vince saw a ton of things coming at him and us, and he thought one thing he's always said, he'll do whatever is best for business. At that moment, he saw what was best for business was for him to step away for a while, so he did. He really did step away. There was no, why are you doing this? I wouldn't do it that way. It was total freedom to Stephanie, myself, and Triple H on the creative side. It's only been a week, but I believe what he said publicly about I'm here to engage in strategic alternatives in the media rights, so far the engagement has been that on and other board issues. I made it a point, and so did others, to see him once a month or so while he was sitting out. I think those things are important. It's no different than we It's no different than when other mutual friends of ours who have gone through hard times professionally. Yeah, Vince is going through real hard times right now. My heart just bleeds for him. Who have gone through hard times professionally, that's when they sort of need to hear from folks the most. As if Vince has suffered some horrific tragedy here. Oh my God, we got to go check on Vince, make sure Vince is okay. Yeah, that's priority. Jesus, man. In staying in contact in that way, which was mostly social and personal, there was never a moment of do it this way or that way. Asked if he was surprised that Vince ended up returning, Khan replied, "No, that's Vince. Anyone who knows him thought with a tweet when he stepped down, anyone who believed that was permanent doesn't know him. That was never going to happen. I'm appreciative of the fact that he gave it 5-6 months to let the dust settle and coming back the way he's coming back. Let the dust settle. The dust settle from sexual assault, sexual abuse, corruption, rape allegations. The dust doesn't settle from that. Jesus Christ. Goes on to say here, when it was pointed out that WWE was having success without Vince and how that may have gotten to Vince, Khan responded by saying, and I quote, "Having been on the inside, keep in mind as a publicly traded company, if there was an official succession plan, that would have to have been filed a long time ago. I think the succession plan in his mind is the one that he put in place when he stepped down, which was Triple H runs creative and Stephanie and I co-run the company. I never got a sense from him of any sort of bitterness or anything. He seemed, for the first month of his hiatus, thrilled. You think of how hard he's worked. A month off would be amazing. He went to Italy, whatever it was, the things that we all wish we could do while we're in the mix of empire building. Yeah, I don't think Vince really does vacations. The first month was amazing. I think by month 5, he was getting ready to return. The strategic alternative process is a real one. He's hyped for it, and I haven't seen any heat from him from anybody who is at WWE or with WWE. There is no commentary from him, certainly to me, and I've been in touch with him a lot. There is no, quote, why did Paul and you hire this? Why did Stephanie do that? There's been none of that. So Nick Khan is claiming that Vince McMahon is staying completely away and he's remaining behind the scenes to oversee the potential sale of the company, and that's it. He's not doing any more than that. But to hear this guy say some of the shit that he says, I guess I can understand why he gets ahead in life, because he is embarrassingly full of shit. My God, letting the dust settle. I mean, he's the man that voted against Vince coming back, right? Now all of a sudden he's got his head up his ass. Like, what's going on here? So Nick Khan feels like a guy who's got his best interest at heart too. It's within his best interest to stay close to Vince, even though if an opportunity to turn on Vince happened, he would probably do that as well. I would not trust Nick Khan at all if I was anybody. It just sounds like he's doing whatever he can to have as much control and power in that company as he can. Now, somebody's got to come in there and run the day-to-day business. If the succession was going to be Triple H in charge of creative and Stephanie and Nick Khan running the company, well, that's where we're at right now. I'd like just to keep that. So if the company is going to be sold, hopefully, and it gets sold to a Comcast or a Disney, hopefully that nucleus can remain intact. But there was some reports yesterday of massive internal layoffs happening, which usually does happen in tandem with a sale. And when you're pursuing a sale and you've hired outside firms to help you pursue that sale, things probably happen pretty quick, and they probably have the foot on the gas really hard right now. Things are probably happening as we speak, and I think we're at the point where we could get an announcement of a deal at any point. And it just sucks that we're going through this massive transition in WWE, along with all of this ugly controversy attached to Vince McMahon, right at the most exciting time of the year. We're in the Royal Rumble build. Then it's going to be WrestleMania season. My God. So this is the best time of year. I really don't want this stuff to be a distraction for the talent. I don't want this stuff to be a distraction for Triple H, who's got to have a lot of stuff on his mind right now, but also has to stay supremely focused on his job and the creative direction of WWE. And I just think that if it was me, if I'm in those type of shoes, I don't know how I can give it my 100% best effort to put forth the best product possible when I know that once the sale is done, who knows what could happen to me? I just don't know if I'd be able to focus to that degree. So I just hope that, WrestleMania and Royal Rumble is still a massive success. But you don't know. You don't know how that's all going to work out because we're right in the middle of this all happening. So I think we're going to get some sort of an announcement on a sale soon. If that happens right in the middle of the WrestleMania build, that would be interesting. If we could get on the other side of WrestleMania and then announce it in the summer or during a quieter time of the year. But it feels like, based on how fast things are moving and where we were 1 month ago compared to where we are now and the changes that have taken place, I feel like we're really close to some sort of a sale happening. Now, according to Sean Ross Sapp, who tweeted out yesterday that Odds Checker currently has Comcast as the favorite to buy WWE. So the betting odds are on Comcast. I don't know how much stock to take in that, but that's what the betting odds are saying. And in my mind, like I said, anything better than the Saudis is fine with me. Nobody wants necessarily Tony Khan to buy it either, because then you re-enter a wrestling monopoly that we just left for the past 20-something years, so we don't want to return to that. But at the same time, having a company privately owned like that by a wrestling fan might ensure the stability of the company's survival from that standpoint, because one of the things we saw with WCW, once Ted Turner's hands got off of it and mergers started happening, then the property was not that much of a priority and they didn't want anything to do with it. So if WWE falls into hands like that, that's something that I just have to hope, and we all have to hope as fans, that Vince McMahon and Nick Khan and everybody else negotiating this deal, they have that in mind as well, and they want to make sure that if they sell WWE to someone, that WWE will still exist in 10 years. So hopefully all of those details work out, because that's going to affect us as fans and the future of WWE if they are sold to the wrong people. So Comcast being the favorite, that's honestly just who I'd rather have buy it at this point. I've mentioned before, WWE already has an ongoing relationship with them, two of them. They've been on the USA Network ever since I was a little itty-bitty baby. They've been on USA Network, and they're on Peacock. So at least Monday Night Raw and the streaming content probably would not change if Comcast bought them, unless Comcast then licenses out their shit to Paramount or somewhere else. I don't know how all that works, but I would assume that they would stay on Peacock, and the relationship with USA would probably remain intact as well. SmackDown would probably be the only property to move off of Fox and potentially go to NBC, which could be great. So Comcast being the favorite there, that works for me. It sounds like that might even be a better location than Disney. A lot of fans said, whoa, good mic work. You don't want Disney buying them because of this, and this. I'm not a Disney fan, don't know shit about Disney, so I kind of had to take y'all's word for it on that. But it sounds like with some of the other franchises that Disney has destroyed, getting their hands on WWE might not be the best thing, but I also think they could make a WWE theme park. We could get a physical Hall of Fame under Disney, but sounds like that might not be worth it. Comcast might be the better bet at this point. I think of all of the suitors, all of the bidders, all of the buyers, I think Comcast might be the one. So that's kind of who I'm rooting for, as crazy as that sounds. Anyway, we got to talk about The Rock in a minute. Let me cruise back over here to the chat and knock out this very generous super chat from Randy Peace. Thank you very much for that $10. This is my favorite wrestling channel on YouTube. Love your perspective on wrestling. Sending my prayers out to the Pugh family. Rest in peace, Jay. Thank you so much, Randy. Yeah, I'm sorry. I picked a bad day to come up here and try to talk about homophobia and religion in the South, because I'm sick right now. So I'm on medicine. So I'm sorry if I'm not being as coherent or fluent as I wanted to be talking about this stuff. But, I've been thinking about it all week. And I just, when I kind of read back about all of the apologies that Jay Briscoe had made and the things he said and the quotes and the interviews. And, I'm like, you can tell when somebody's remorseful. Anybody who's got two eyes and ears can, everybody's pretty good. I'm very good at sniffing out bullshit. And if it wasn't genuine, or if he did not show genuine remorse and he gave a flimsy apology, I think I would feel it, and I just didn't feel it when I read any of that. So, just really appreciated that from him. I appreciate anybody who can grow. You know why? Because I did that. I did the same thing, not to his degree, but I've done plenty of other things in my life that I've learned from. I've done stupid things, learned from them, changed and bettered myself from it. And I appreciate anybody that can do that and is able to come out on the other side of that stuff, Go Comcast, go Comcast. Ooh, we got a fumble, pal. What do we got? It is 27-17, 4 minutes left. Jags with the ball. Sounds like they're not going to do it, but down 10, 4 minutes left is doable. It is not completely over yet, but it looks like the Chiefs are going to be moving on. By the way, we've been talking all this time. I have not even asked for a thumbs up button yet, or hit the like button for me. Smash that like. I would appreciate it. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. We're here all the time, and we got a massive week coming up on the channel. We're going to be here tomorrow. We're going to be here Monday. We might be here Wednesday. We're going to be here Thursday night. We're going to be here Saturday all day for the Royal Rumble, live reacting to it. A few years back, I think it was the 2018 Royal Rumble, we streamed for 8 hours. We're not going to do that this year, but 8 hours. I was up here for the whole 4-hour show. Then we did a review, and then we just chilled. Back in those days, we had like a massively large audience for the show. So I would just stay up and keep going and keep going. So it was a lot of fun. I don't think you're going to be able to squeeze 8 hours out of me next Saturday, but we will be doing that, and there will be no Winged Eagle next week. So just keep that in mind. Let's talk about The Rock. Will The Rock be at the Royal Rumble? Better yet, will The Rock be wrestling Roman Reigns at WrestleMania? We all think that it's possible. The Rock has now said that, keep in mind, the Royal Rumble promo poster and all that stuff and graphics have got lightning bolts and electrifying lightning bolts all over them. WWE posted a top 10 Rumble moments with The Rock on the thumbnail. He's been teasing matches with Roman Reigns, a match with Roman Reigns, for over a year. Even on his sitcom, Young Rock, where they teased it. They've been leaning into everything here. And then all of a sudden, Rock says, I just don't think I'm going to be able to get myself in enough shape for WrestleMania to be able to be in a match with The Rock. I'm like, dude, you've known that this is what wrestling has wanted for the better part of a year. It's not like WWE called you yesterday. Yo, Dwayne, can you get in shape for Mania? Well, shit, Triple H, I'm real flabby. I don't know if I can get this flabby body in shape. And I know, physical muscular shape is much different than cardio shape. But come on, not getting in shape for a match, I don't care. I think if The Rock got in the ring right now, he'd still be in 10 times better cardio shape than fucking Hogan during some of those matches he had late in his career. So I don't know what the difference would be there. I think The Rock could easily do it, but I'm hoping that he's just saying that as a way to throw the fans off. I would think that if a match with Roman Reigns was going to take place, LA would be the place to do it. Since they've been talking about it so long, usually movie stars like this have got their schedules set out way in advance. And I know in previous years when The Rock has been rumored to be at WrestleMania, usually what happens is it finally comes out that he's going to be doing something, filming something or whatever. And we haven't heard any sort of film projects that he's on. Now, I don't know anything about Black Adam. I don't even know what Black Adam is. I think it's a superhero movie or it's in that universe or something, but it didn't do well apparently. So he's dealing with the failure of Black Adam. And what a way to come back. Come back to wrestling and, really pump some life back into your career. That would be so fun. But I don't know really what the holdup here at this point for The Rock would be, because if he's ever going to come back and do one more match and have closure on that whole thing, the perfect opponent is sitting right here in Roman Reigns. The perfect location is sitting right there in Los Angeles. That is where you should do it. What a way to put over the next member of that family to then carry the torch and continue this, this bloodline that's stretched for so many generations ever since before I was even alive. That's pretty cool. And it seems like all the stars are aligned for this to be the perfect opportunity for that to happen. If it doesn't, then when does The Rock ever come back? Does he ever? I know he's old as shit now. He's in his 50s, right? I felt 9 years ago, 10 years ago now, when he faced Cena at WrestleMania 29, I felt like his window was closing then. And then a couple of years later, when he kind of didn't come back, he made some WrestleMania appearances, but he never really wrestled unless you count the Eric Rowan thing. And I was like, I feel like maybe he's just not going to wrestle again. He may never come back unless the perfect situation comes along. Stone Cold Steve Austin last year main evented WrestleMania, who's older than The Rock and not in as good shape as The Rock. Even though Austin's in phenomenal shape, I think The Rock is just a freak of nature. So Rock saying that he's not going to be in shape in time for a match with Roman might be BS. You got lightning all over the Royal Rumble promotional ads. He's got new merchandise up, by the way, on WWE Shop. He's had over 14, 15, 16 months of teasing a match with Roman Reigns, and they even mentioned it on Young Rock. And now all of a sudden, when there's been some rumors that WWE is very pleased with the surprises they have at the Royal Rumble, even went as far as to pre-announce Cody because people knew Cody was going to be at the Rumble anyway. We don't need to make him a surprise. People know he's coming. We got other surprises waiting in the wings, and we have speculated that The Rock could be in the Royal Rumble for a while. We could conceivably, potentially, possibly, I even pitched this whole thing happening, have The Rock and Stone Cold come face-to-face in the Royal Rumble. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? And what if everybody's out of the ring and it's The Rock and it's Austin, they're face-to-face, and the countdown starts and Cena comes out? Remember WrestleMania 30 when they opened with Hogan, Rock, and Austin? You got that scene again, only you got a different legend in there instead of Hogan. You replace Hogan with Cena, but now these guys are going to fight. That could be fun, man. So I hope something like that happens. I hope The Rock is just blowing smoke, and I hope The Rock comes in and he's going to be not only at the Royal Rumble, but WrestleMania. I also think, though, leaving The Rock out is perfectly fine. I don't really need to see The Rock because I think there's a lot of story with Roman. Something's going to go down with Sami Zayn very soon. Cody, of course, is targeting the championship. There's a lot of story with The Rock without The Rock's involvement. So if The Rock is for real and he's not going to be at WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and they're not going to use him, then Roman still has plenty to do. So I'm okay with that. But I still think it would be cool if The Rock came in because I would like to see that. By the way, I'm going to be at WrestleMania. You want to see where I'm sitting? Bought my tickets last night, late at night. Had to take a big, deep breath before I made that purchase. My God, WrestleMania seats were not cheap. But here's where I'm sitting, right here. So here is, it's like the second row up. If I would have gotten any closer to the ring, I would have had to sell this fucking house. Like, it was crazy. So luckily, since it's in LA, it's right up the road. There's no plane tickets to buy, so I'm willing to spend a little bit more on tickets since I don't have to really travel. But Jesus Christ, got me and Elizabeth 2-day passes, so we will be in that section both nights for WrestleMania. Also booked 3 nights of a hotel right down the road at the Hyatt House. So if you are going to WrestleMania and you want to hang out, we are going to be doing something probably that Friday night. I'll be getting into LA Friday afternoon. We'll hang out Friday night, maybe go to a show, watch SmackDown somewhere, hang out in a bar. Otherwise, we will be at SoFi both days. We can meet up, hang out, do stuff. It's going to be a blast, and I'm sure I will have some other details about a meetup or meet and greet at WrestleMania coming in the future. So if you are going, hit me up with a DM or just stay tuned to details, and we will meet up, high five, have a beer, have a soda, have a Coke and a smile, whatever you want to do. But it appears like the seats will be, I guess, kind of like right here. I kind of pulled up SoFi and kind of looked at the stadium, and I think that's kind of where I'm going to be based on the tickets I bought, but I'm not sure. Not bad seats. I'm happy with them, and WrestleMania is going to be a blast. Looking forward to it. Speaking of WrestleMania, kind of, there's also some CM Punk news. Now, Meltzer is saying in the latest Observer that Tony Khan is still just waiting to see with Punk. As of right now, he's not going to release him, has no plans to release him, and he's keeping... And the belief is that Punk is on ice for now with the company. Punk has also been very active on Instagram, seemingly wants to come back. He's been responding to MJF. There's been Jade Cargill came out recently and praised Punk for how he was to her in the locker room and how he went out of his way to help the women and things like that. So you're seeing more and more positivity, with Punk. And I think this could go down as one of AEW's greatest successes. I don't know what, this is such a weird example. The movie Apollo 13 comes to mind. True story, where the astronauts get stranded out there and their ship explodes and they're going to the moon and they have to just figure out a way to get back home, and they have to spend like 4 days in space, freezing cold with no electricity, and get home somehow all safe. And it's this big fucking catastrophe. It's like the worst thing that's ever happened to NASA. And, they're talking in the room. Ed Harris is the guy plays the NASA head dude. And, 2 guys are talking like, God, this is going to be the worst thing that's ever happened. And he just kind of says, you know what? I think this is going to be our finest hour. And somehow I just get this feeling that people are so quick to judge the situation, judge Tony Khan, judge AEW, myself included. I mean, I gave Tony Khan a hard time for allowing that type of professionalism to happen right in front of him. And I was like, it is time to put your big boy pants on and handle this shit, man. You're the boss. You should not let things get to this degree. This complete breakdown of control over, over your talent is unacceptable for a wrestling promoter of your stature. This is not some independent company in buttfuck nowhere. You are on TNT and TBS. You've got you are a billionaire who owns a wrestling company. You cannot let shit like this happen. And I was very quick to judge. All of you were as well. I made my things known. I said, CM Punk can never come back. That was so goddamn unprofessional. The way he acted like that, he has to leave. And so when Tony Khan made the decision the very next day to strip everybody of their titles and suspend everybody, and I'm like, okay, that's actually a pretty good thing to do. The Elite were gone for a long time, and then after the investigation concluded, they were brought back. Punk wasn't fired or released, but he was not brought back to TV because Tony Khan it seems like Tony Khan actually there is a method to this madness here. And it sounds like the injury to CM Punk was kind of a blessing in disguise. Tony Khan not being too quick to release him or cut ties with him because of a fear of going to WWE, or just maybe still thinking that you never know what the future holds. You don't know if the Elite are going to re-sign. You don't know if, the dust settles and cooler heads can prevail and maybe a meeting and conversation or a phone call can take place to kind of get the ball rolling on mending some fences here. He's taking his time. And if it turns out that he works stuff out with the Elite and CM Punk, I think that's going to be a credit to not only all four of those guys for being able to come back and work together after something like that, but Tony Khan to be able to get everybody together and say, look, let's make some money here. I want everybody to get along. I want to do this. I want this to work. And if he's able to accomplish that, with a personality as volatile as Phil and everything that he said, and he's able to somehow broker a truce here between all parties, and they're able to put this out on TV and make stupid money, this will go down as one of AEW's greatest successes, that they were able to manage and bounce back and recover from a terrible situation that should have never happened. But they were able to learn from it, kind of been the theme today, grow from it, and fix those mistakes. And if they are able to come back, because a lot of people feel that CM Punk is coming back. A lot of people feel that there are a lot of hints being dropped that he is going to come back. And imagine if you will, if I'm Tony Khan and I put this on Twitter the other day, and I've quietly worked shit out with the Elite and CM Punk, I would keep Punk on ice, number one, until he gets healthy again. And then I would wait until WWE brings back The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then they have an incredible, successful WrestleMania. Incredibly successful two-night extravaganza at WrestleMania 39, where Austin and The Rock have championship matches, and Cody and Sammy and Roman, and it's just this humongously successful show with all of these names from the past. And how cool would it be if we have Austin and Rock both having a match at WrestleMania? I remember back at WrestleMania 26 thinking it was surreal as fuck to have Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels both having a match at WrestleMania. That just blew my mind. It would be the same thing with Austin and Rock if this happened at WrestleMania 39. So if I'm Tony Khan, I'm waiting for all that to happen. Let WWE have their WrestleMania season, which is going to give wrestling a shot in the arm overall. A lot of people are going to have their eyes on wrestling, maybe more than normal in different parts of the year. And then right after WrestleMania and WWE has their great show, the Raw after WrestleMania, and they are riding high on that success. That very next Wednesday, boom, CM Punk comes back and attacks the Elite with a chair, goes off the air, cutting a pro. Maybe he grabs the mic and just starts F-bombing, and they shut the mic off, they cut it off, and they fade to black instantly, like making it look like a shoot. Like, holy shit, he really jumped the bear. Or just do some sort of surprise return where nobody saw it coming. Punk comes back. He's back. The wrestling world is already just coming off this great WrestleMania. We've already seen some crazy shit, and now you're going to hit us with CM Punk. Maybe you don't do it the Wednesday after WrestleMania. Maybe you wait 2 weeks and let fans catch their breath. But I mean, shit, if that doesn't give wrestling a shot in the arm, what will? Having a great WrestleMania, a memorable WrestleMania 39 with Austin and Rock and Roman Reigns' run finally coming to an end. All the other great stuff they could do on the show, and then right after that, Punk comes back, that would be unreal. That would be so awesome. So that would be cool if they are able to work something out. It seems like Punk wants to come back. He's been active on Instagram, like I said, and making posts and responding to people. So he feels like he's got the itch, but, you know, he should have thought about that before he went on his muffin rant at All Out. So if Tony Khan is able to work this situation out, that's a credit to him. If he's not, it just can't be done. He's got to release Punk in the end, then he's just going to have to do that. But imagine if he's able to bring these parties together. I don't want to hear any criticisms for him. I mean, how are the fans, how are the haters, how are the assholes going to possibly turn that into a criticism? They'll find a way. They will, because that's what a biased brain will do. But if Khan is able to just handle that situation, granted it shouldn't happen to begin with, and he made some mistakes in allowing it to happen, but how he handled it after the fact has been pretty good so far, and I have very few issues with it, and it's going to be even better if it turns out that CM Punk does, in fact, come back to the company. And if we are coming up this year, this August, and it's 1 year after the fact, and everybody is back in an AEW ring by this September, that will be a success story for AEW. That'll be something that we'll look back on in their history and say, you know, they teetered on the edge of destruction there, and they were able to recover from that. I mean, that was a catastrophic event that took place at their biggest pay-per-view, and for them to be able to rectify it in the way that they did deserves credit. So we might look back at this as something that's a positive in AEW and a growing and learning, maturing experience for not only the company, but Tony Khan as a promoter. So we'll see where it goes. This coming Raw, Monday night, Raw XXX. Can you believe they named this shit Raw XXX? Type those letters into your Google search bar right now and then click on images. Any 8-year-olds watching in the chat right now? Go do that. Go ask your mom, hey mom, go Google Raw XXX. While you're at it, why don't you Google holiday cream pies? My God, WWE. Maybe the submission sorority will show up on Raw XXX this Monday. But anyway, 30th anniversary celebration for Monday Night Raw. Not the actual 30th anniversary. The 30th anniversary was way back on the 11th, the same night I was at Dynamite in LA when Adam Cole came back. That was fun. But they're going to be celebrating the 30-year run of Monday Night Raw this week with a bunch of legends lined up. So they've got the usual suspects here that you see on a lot of these reunion type of shows. You got Ron Simmons, you got the Road Dogg, X-Pac, DDP, Jerry Lawler, Godfather, Ted DiBiase, IRS, Ric Flair, Triple H, HBK, Undertaker, Kurt Angle, Medusa, or Unlunder Blaze, Teddy Long, Jimmy Hart, and Hulk Hogan. Also, the Bella Twins are on hand, and Lita is scheduled to be the ref in that cage match between Becky and Bayley. So in terms of the legends, I don't really have a problem with anybody here. I don't personally need Hulk Hogan in 2023 as a wrestling fan. I don't ever need to see him again. However, Monday happens to be the 39th anniversary of his first ever title win in WWF over the Iron Sheik in Madison Square Garden, January 23rd, 1984. They should probably mention that on Monday night. Otherwise, there's no reason to have that buffoon on that show. But if he's there, fine. It's Hulk Hogan, whatever. He's Hulk Hogan. He's still Hulk Hogan, so him being on the show, I can kind of understand. I just don't know as a wrestling fan if I have any use for him. I really don't. I don't understand what Alundra Blaze is doing there. I know that WWE has a good relationship with Medusa, and I love Medusa, but she's like the opposite of a Raw legend. She was there for a very short time in a division that was non-existent, and then she took that WWF title belt on Raw's competing show and threw it in the trash on television. That is not a Raw legend in my mind, and I'm sorry. I like Medusa. If you want to have any other sort of WWE reunion show where you bring legends in, sure, bring Alundra Blaze in, no problem. But for Raw, she's not a part of one of the great moments in Monday Night Raw's history. She's part of one of the worst moments and one of the most embarrassing moments in Raw history. Get her the fuck out of there. By the way, Jimmy Hart didn't spend a ton of time on Raw either. Dude was there, 4 months? Came in late January, or he was there when Raw started, managing Money Inc., but then when he turned babyface and joined Hogan, he was gone after WrestleMania 9. They never appeared on TV again until Hogan defended the title at King of the Ring against Yokozuna. So aside from some pre-tapes that you might have gotten, some interviews from Jimmy Hart and Hogan that might have aired on Monday Night Raw, the dude was barely on the show at all. And he spent all of his time in WCW. He is a Nitro legend. Jimmy Hart absolutely is a Nitro legend, but he's not a Raw legend. So I don't think Alundra Blaze or Jimmy Hart should be there, in my opinion. Everybody else, though, had moments on Raw. Of course, Road Dogg and X-Pac and the DX stuff. DDP had the big Undertaker angle and had enough Raw moments to make him okay. Lawler, of course. I don't like Lawler, but he was the voice of Raw with Jim Ross for so long. The Godfather, of course. Ted DiBiase is so-so, but I'm okay with that too because he spent more time there than Alundra Blaze and Jimmy Hart. Ric Flair, of course. Triple H, of course. HBK, of course. Undertaker. All these people had many Raw moments. So did Kurt Angle. Teddy Hart. I said Teddy Hart again. Teddy Long, however, is a SmackDown GM. What the fuck did he do on Raw besides referee some matches and manage a couple guys for a short time? He is a SmackDown legend, not a Raw legend, but whatever. And of course, the Bella Twins, they did a lot on Raw as well. So typical gathering of legends there for Monday Night Raw. They're probably going to be involved in the typical shit you see. A lot of weird, funny, tongue-in-cheek backstage promos. There might be something in-ring as well. There are 2 interactions that I want to see. I want to see Bray Wyatt interact with IRS, with his dad, and I also want to see maybe Ron Simmons be in the ring when JBL and Baron Corbin come out. So we could see an APA reunion, and I also think doing something with Bray Wyatt and his dad would be really fun as well. There's a big WWE Raw video package going around that aired last night on SmackDown, and it's all over social media. A lot of good moments in this. Chris Jericho even retweeted it out last night. And they have a lot of, it's interesting because they show a lot of talent from AEW. You've got Danielson, Jericho, Big Show, Mark Henry. A lot of AEW talent are featured in this video package except for one notable name. No CM Punk at all. The pipe bomb, all that stuff, the Summer of Punk, everything he did during those 2 years, he saved 2011, and he was a big part of 2012. And he had a presence on those shows in some of those years of Monday Night Raw, and he definitely has one of the most memorable Raw moments of all time. He was completely absent from this video package, which is kind of telling. On Monday, we also have, in addition to all of these legends, we have an acknowledgement ceremony for Roman. So all of the, they mentioned this last week. I think it's going to be all of the members of the Samoan family. Every living member is going to be there. So you're going to have Afa and I think Sika and everybody who's there and just still living. I don't know how far they're going to go with this, but they're going to bring a lot of the Samoan family out there to acknowledge Roman Reigns. This would be a perfect place for The Rock to make his presence known. I just don't think The Rock is really, I don't think Raw is where you should bring him back. You could, but Roman still has his match with Kevin Owens. If Rock is coming in, you feel like that's a Mania build thing, and Rock coming in would really take away from the Owens and Roman match, which I think they've done a good job to build. So I think if Rock is going to come in, save him for the Rumble or save him for the WrestleMania build, one or the other. So maybe not here. But if they've got all these Samoans in the ring, we probably won't get The Rock, but we might get some teases. So pay close attention to Roman's promo during that acknowledgement ceremony. If he's really leaning in on, I'm the greatest in this family and nobody can touch me, I'm the true head of the table, and all of you know it, and knowing that there's one notable missing name from that group, somebody that's not in the ring there to agree with him, that could be really laying some groundwork and planting some seeds for WrestleMania. So that could be a big deal. However, just a little while ago, before we went live here, WWE announced on Twitter that there will now, be a tribal court for Sami Zayn. Sami, of course, is in a little bit of trouble with the bloodline. Roman is laying the groundwork for a breakup here last night on SmackDown, and Sami seems to be very concerned for his future in the bloodline. So now he's going to go to tribal court. So I can't tell if the tribal court is in addition to the acknowledgement ceremony or if they are replacing the acknowledgement ceremony with the tribal court. Not sure. It's probably going to be both, and I hope it is. And the tribal court should be pretty damn entertaining. That might take place backstage. I'm not sure how that's going to work. Like I said, we also have Becky versus Bayley in a cage. Lita will be the special referee for that. And we have Austin Theory defending his U.S. title against Bobby Lashley, who won that, gauntlet thing last week, right? But I do not believe Lashley's going to beat Theory. I think Brock Lesnar is going to show up in this match. Everybody else is here. It's Raw 30. All the big stars are in town. Brock should be no different. I think he'll make his presence known in this match. He will cost Lashley the match against Theory, and we will have those two guys set up one-on-one at the Royal Rumble, unless they're planning to build Lashley and Brock for Mania. But I don't know. I don't know if I need that for Mania. Maybe just give it to us at the Royal Rumble. So I think that's what's going to happen there on Raw this week. This past week on Dynamite, of course, I was not here to watch the show, but I did watch Top Flight beat the Young Bucks, which I thought was cool. That Danielson and Bandito match, holy shit, man. That was a lot of fun. And Toni Storm, after defeating Willow Nightingale, turned heel with Saraya and started beating the shit out of her until Ruby Soho came out to make the save. So those were probably the three big moments on the show there, along with the great main event, Darby Allin defeating Kushida to retain the TNT title. But at the end of the day, overall, it felt like an underwhelming Dynamite. That was the feeling I was getting online about it. I didn't write down the rating, but I know they scored above 900,000 this week. I always go over to Brandon Thurston or Brian Alvarez and check out the ratings and write them down. I forgot to this week. But I do know, I believe the rating went up a little bit. However, it did feel like an underwhelming Dynamite for AEW standards, which is fine. They can't hit a home run every week. A lot of these shows are incredibly good. This one was just a little bit so-so, but at the end of the day, even on a so-so lackluster AEW show, you still get Danielson and Bandito, you still get Darby and Kushida, and you still get a great tag team match upset there with the Bucks putting over Top Flight. So it wasn't all bad. This week looks pretty good. We got Jungle Hook taking on Matt Hardy and Ethan Page. We have Toni Storm versus Ruby Soho. We've got Les Sex Gods, I don't know if they're still called that, Jericho and Sammy Guevara taking on Ricky Starks and Action Andretti. We've got Bryan Danielson taking on Brian Cage. Holy shit. So Danielson continues on this role of getting to MJF. Once he's done beating all these guys, he will get that Iron Man match against MJF. We also have Darby Allin versus Buddy Murphy in a TNT Championship match. That one's going to be good. And maybe my favorite, or the segment I'm anticipating the most, Ass Boy Family Therapy. Yeah, Ass Boy Family Therapy. That should be very entertaining. So that's on tap for this Wednesday's Dynamite. Unfortunately, due to my under the weatherness, I didn't see any of Rampage last night. None. Not a second of it. So I don't know anything about it, and I can't talk about it. I'm sorry. But I did see SmackDown. I was off last night, and I laugh every time I'm off on Friday, which is rare, but whenever I am and I try to watch SmackDown, I can't watch it on Fox because Fox doesn't play it on the West Coast until 8 p.m. local time. So, or 7 p.m. local time, whatever fucking time it comes on. So I had to pull up an illegal stream. I watched it from a very nice New York TV station last night and watched pretty much the whole show. And they're doing this tag team tournament thing where the winners are going to challenge the Usos for the SmackDown tag team titles. And this Monday on Raw, I forgot to mention it, the Usos also have a Raw tag team title match against Dominic Mysterio and Damian Priest. Now, I think the Usos should hang on to the tag team titles until the winners of this SmackDown tag tournament are crowned, because I don't think Priest and Dominic, even though Priest and Dominic as Raw tag team champions would be really fun, I think I'd prefer McIntyre and Sheamus as SmackDown tag champs over Dominic and Priest as Raw tag champs. I think Sheamus and Drew would be fun as champs. The Banger Brothers get themselves a bus, the whole deal. I think it would be a lot of fun. Unless the plan is to take the titles off of both Usos. Or I'm sorry, take both titles off the Usos. But I don't think so. I think they should wait. I really think that maybe you should go with Owens and Sami Zayn for the tags against the Usos at WrestleMania, unless WWE has way bigger plans for Sami Zayn than we think. A lot of people have been actually talking about this guy winning the Royal Rumble or winning the WWE title. But with the tag team title tournament, I think it makes more sense to have Sheamus and Drew. They're the more formidable team in my mind, and I think they are going to tear through this tournament. So they beat the Viking Raiders last night to advance. Dem Boys armbands were seen on the arms of the Viking Raiders. That was very cool. We also saw Hit Row defeating Los Lotharios to advance in the tourney. We also saw Imperium defeating the Brawling Brutes to advance. Now, I thought for sure we would get a Brawling Brutes versus Drew and Sheamus final. I thought for sure Drew would have to face his Brawling buddies, but that's not going to happen. They lost. Imperium advances, and Legado del Fantasma defeated the male models as well. So the final four will be Sheamus and Drew versus Hit Row and Imperium versus Legado del Fantasma. And the winner of that will challenge the Usos for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. I don't know if that's going to be at the Rumble or what, but that's coming up soon. So what I would do is if WWE has bigger plans for Owens and Sami Zayn, and when I say bigger plans, I mean not having them win tag team championships together at WrestleMania. Then maybe you take the belts off the Usos on Monday against Damian and Dominic, and then you have Sheamus and Drew beat them for the SmackDown tags, and they have no belts going into WrestleMania. But I still think you got to keep at least one championship on them going into Mania. But I do like the idea of a Banger Brothers tag team, and I'm really hoping Drew and Sheamus, when they win this tournament inevitably, I just don't see how they don't win. They're just too strong against everybody else left in the field. They should destroy everybody, and I think they will. And I think they will go on to win SmackDown tag titles as well. So that's what's going on with the tag tournament on SmackDown. We also saw a lot of the Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns stuff. Roman calls Sami into his office, and he's very cold to Sami, tells him to get out, and you can see the concern in Sami's face. Roman and Heyman, obviously, a lot of manipulation here on their part with Sami Zayn. When Roman summons Sami a second time, Sami leaves a little bit happier, but the audience knows that Roman and Heyman are up to something. And then we get the contract signing where it's supposed to be Owens and Roman signing the contract. Owens, as Roman is in the ring, sitting down, laying back in the nice leather chair, he hits the ring, attacks the Bloodline, beats up Solo Sikoa, takes out the Usos, hits Roman with a stunner, and then goes back in the ring and power bombs Roman right through the table, grabs the contract away from Paul Heyman and signs it and runs away through the crowd. So Kevin Owens is a guy that just keeps coming back. He came and just dismantled all of the Bloodline. Sami ran out there very, very late, and they're playing into that Sami and Kevin Owens relationship now. Even in the prior segment with Sami in Roman's locker room, he was even saying, people are telling me that you're using me and all the things that Kevin Owens is saying to me. And I kind of started to believe him for a minute. So there you go. You're planting those seeds, and you know something big is coming, and it's coming soon. So now I feel like we could get some sort of a resolution to this. I feel like the payoff is going to be good. I have full confidence in all parties involved to make the Sami Roman Bloodline payoff be spectacular. Whether it's Sami wising up and turning on them before they get a chance to turn on him, or if they do what we're all expecting them to do, and for the Bloodline to absolutely annihilate Sami in a brutal and cruel way, to where maybe even Kevin Owens has to come out and try to save him and save his life. And, like a Rocky Apollo thing or whatever, when, what's his face? Drago killed Apollo and Rocky fights, something like that. But I think Sami getting beaten down to the point where he has to be like hospitalized or whatever would be a good way to use that as a tool to repair the Owens and Sami relationship. We've got Elimination Chamber coming up in Montreal where something big could go down there. And then, of course, WrestleMania, a good opportunity for a tag team title match with the Usos, Zayn and Owens. Would be fantastic. Now, I might even put that match in the main event of night one. I mean, if Roman's going to, it depends on what they do with Roman. If Roman's going in there with two belts and there's only going to be one world championship match, yes, you probably should put a women's match in the main event of night one. But what if that match doesn't have the story that the tag team match does? Owens and Zayn against the Usos, I think would be a phenomenal main event. And it would be the first time that a tag match was in the main event, right? No, first time maybe since Mania 1. When was the last time a tag team match was in the main event of WrestleMania? I think it would be WrestleMania 1, right? So that might be kind of cool if they did that. But there's a lot of still unanswered questions. We don't know how quickly this is going to happen. If Monday night, I still feel like Monday is not going to be the Sammy turn, but it might be. It is the 30th show. They are stacking the card. They are making it a very big deal. If you are going to do a Sammy Zayn bloodline split on TV, you want to try to do that when you have the biggest audience possible. Monday could be the place for that. There's the tribal court, so we will find out. Wow. Anyway, what else did we have last night on SmackDown? I think that was it. Charlotte Flair came out and cut a promo. I like that they're doing a program with her and Sonya Deville. That's cool. They were about to fight it out when I think Sonya challenges her, and Charlotte's like, yeah, I'll fight you, whatever. And then Pierce is like, no, come on, we're not doing this. And then Sonya nails Charlotte and retreats out of the ring. So SmackDown was pretty decent last night for the, I guess, 70% of it that I actually watched. Not bad. So anyway, this was a long, weird podcast today. We had a lot to talk about. I'm going to cruise back over here to the chat and knock out the remaining super chats that we have, and we'll sign everybody off here. I thank you guys for being here. Also, hit that thumbs up button if you don't mind on your way out the door. And I apologize again for my voice. I am under the weather. I do have a sinus nasally congestion head cold thing that was really bad 2 nights ago, to the point where I was worried about this podcast, but really cleared up yesterday and I felt a lot better. But it's still lingering, man. It's still in me, but I promise to be good to go and ready to rock tomorrow night for Royal Rumble 1999 watch along, which we'll be doing together. Let's go back to the chat. Earlier on, Randy, peace, I got you. Who am I missing? Zach is in the house. Member for 5 months, man. Holy shit. I hoped Punk would come back, but didn't expect it. I still think there's a chance. I also put this on Twitter yesterday. I believe where I sit right now, I could be wrong, but I believe that The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and CM Punk, all three of those men, will have matches in 2023. That's my prediction. I have 11 months to be proven right. We'll see if it happens. Danny in Oak Park. Appreciate that $2. Rest in power, Jay Briscoe. 27-20 Chiefs, says Tatanani, and that is the final. Chiefs advance. Jags are out. Hey, good for them. As somebody who was born in Detroit and unfortunately has to have the oh, wow, I thought I read that wrong. Unfortunately, I have to be a Lions fan, so I know pain. I know what it's like to have a shitty franchise and to have a losing record every single year and to completely suck and to suck bad. So when you can have a bounce back year like the Jags did, I mean, they hired that horrible coach and, you know, they were able to rectify that and make the playoffs, have a winning season. Good for them. They can look back on that and consider it a victory. Whereas the Chiefs, had they lost here, that would have been a monumental blow to that franchise, and they might have made some coaching changes and personnel changes had they lost today. So good for them, 14-3. They're moving on. My brother-in-law is from there, so maybe I'll go watch the game with them next week. We will see. Who else we got? Oh, you said hi, Tito. Was Tito messing around? Oh, he is. He's right over on the floor. He might have shown up on the table behind me. I didn't catch him, but I'm glad that you guys caught a glimpse of him. Thank you, Danny Rax. The acknowledgement ceremony has been canceled. Oh, man, really? See, that seems like some Vince McMahon shit. They went through the trouble of announcing the acknowledgement ceremony last week. Now they're changing it to tribal court. I wonder why. Juliet, appreciate the $2. Hell in a Cell for Lashley and Lesnar. Ooh. Yeah, do a Hell in the Cell, because what have I been saying about Hell in the Cell matches? How long I've been complaining about that pay-per-view and how stupid it is to have a Hell in the Cell pay-per-view on your calendar, because you should save these matches for when you need them. And Lashley and Lesnar, I can't think of two guys who would need a cell more than those two badasses. We've already seen them wrestle one-on-one in regular matches, right? So Hell in a Cell is what they need to do. I think that's kind of been talked about, but I kind of forgot to mention it or kind of forgot about it. But yes, Hell in the Cell at the Royal Rumble between Lashley and Lesnar, or do it at Mania, whatever. But I think Rumble might be closer and makes more sense. So yeah, Hell in the Cell. I'm all about it and appreciate that, Juliet. Thanks for being here. Okay, the Bellas have also announced that they won't be on Raw. See, this is WWE's fault. They've released a bunch of different graphics with the Bellas on there. I think the Bellas are on my fucking thumbnail, aren't they? Son of a bitch. Yeah, I put him on the thumbnail. I got to remake that? Son of a bitch. I'll do that tonight. Yeah, so the Bellas are out, and apparently the acknowledgement ceremony is out as well. All right, well, I got thumbnailing to do tonight. Thanks a lot, WWE, for pre-announcing shit. Appreciate it. Anyway, Gunther cost Sheamus and Drew the tag titles with Imperium winning the shot at WrestleMania. It's Gunther versus Drew versus Sheamus IC title. Maybe. I think Gunther one-on-one would be more fun with someone at Mania. I feel like if Gunther's in that match, you're setting him up to lose the title. Although by then he would have held the title for a long time. I almost like Gunther and Brock more than that, but that could work if Gunther ends up costing them. Yeah, because if it's Sheamus and Drew and Imperium in the finals, yeah, that could make sense. Huh. Could go that way too. I kind of like the idea of the Banger Bros as tag team champions, though, not going to lie. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for me. I got to get out of here. I got to go gut out a night at work, and then I'll be off for a couple of days. So just a reminder, we will be up here tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, to watch Royal Rumble 1999. We're just going to love the winner of that one, aren't we? And then, of course, Monday night we'll be here again to watch Raw XXX together. It's going to be fun. Have a great rest of your Saturday and a great rest of your Saturday night. Thank you so much for all of the donations and the super chats. We are going to send that directly over to the Pugh family tonight, and I will let you guys know when I do. Thanks so much for being here, and thanks for indulging me as I talked about Jay and all of the just wonderful topics that we had to discuss in this episode. Anyway, what a terrible week. Anyway, you guys have a great one.